Hare Krishna. So, as we discussed, there would be a special days, and on those days we would read something which is appropriate to the day. So today is that day. Today is Varaha Dvadasi. Tomorrow would be Nityananda Trayodasi. So today we will be reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, starting with 13th chapter, the appearance of Lord Varahadev, and I hope this will satisfy your hearts and give you wonderful opportunity, and give me wonderful opportunity to meditate on the incarnation of the Lord in the form of the Borg, Varahadev, which is highly appropriate for today. Okay, without further ado, let's get into it. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatirmirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuranmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupah Kadamahyam Dadati Svapadantikam. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyatya Shatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, so this is chapter 13. We'll just read English translation, and that because this is not the only chapter which we will be reading today. Sri Shukadeva Goswami said, O king, after hearing all these most virtuous topics from the sage Maitreya, Vidura inquired further on the topics of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which he adored to hear. Vidura said, O great sage, what did Svayambhuva, the dear son of Brahma, do after obtaining his very loving wife? O best of the virtues, the original king of kings, Manu, was a great devotee of the personality of Godhead Hari, and thus it is worth hearing of his sublime character and activities. Please describe them. I am very eager to hear. Persons who hear from a spiritual master with great labor and for a long time must hear from the mouth of pure devotees about the character and activities of pure devotees. Pure devotees always think within their hearts of the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead, who awards his devotees liberation. Sri Shukadeva Goswami said, the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, was pleased to place his lotus feet on the lap of Vidura because Vidura was very meek and gentle. The sage Maitreya was very pleased with Vidura's words, and being influenced by his spirit, he attempted to speak. The sage Maitreya said to Vidura, after his appearance, Manu, the father of mankind, along with his wife, thus addressed the reservoir of Vedic wisdom Brahma with obeisances and folded hands. You are the father of all living entities and the source of their subsistence because they are all born of you. Please order us how we may be able to render service unto you. O worshipful one, please give us your direction for the execution of duty within our working capacity so that we can follow it for fame in this life and progress in the next. Lord Brahma said, My dear son, O Lord of the world, I am very pleased with you, and I desire all blessings for both you and your wife. You have without reservation surrendered yourself unto me with your heart for my instructions. O hero, your example is quite befitting a son in relationship with his father. Your example is quite befitting a son in relationship with his father. This sort of adoration for the superior is required one who is beyond the limit of envy and who is sane, accepts the orders of his father with great delight and executes it to his full capacity. Since you are my very obedient son, I ask you to beget children qualified like yourself in the womb of your wife. Rule the world in pursuance of the principles of devotional service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and thus worship the Lord by performance of yajna. O King, if you can give proper protection to the living beings in the material world, that will be the best service for me. When the Supreme Lord sees you to be a good protector of the conditioned souls, certainly the master of the senses will be very pleased with you. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Janardana, Lord Krishna, is the form to accept all results of sacrifice. If he is not satisfied, then one's labor for advancement is futile. He is the ultimate self, and therefore one who does not satisfy him certainly neglects his own interests. Sri Manu said, O all-powerful Lord, O killer of all sins, I shall abide by your order. Now please let me know my place and that of the living entities born of me. O Master of the demigods, please attempt to leave the earth, which is merged in the great water, because it is a dwelling place for all the living entities. It can be done by your endeavor and by the mercy of the Lord. Sri Maitreya said, thus, since the earth merged in the water, Brahma gave his attention for a long time to how it could be lifted. Brahma thought, while I have been engaged in process of creation, the earth had been inundated by the deluge and has gone down into the depth of the ocean. What can we do who are engaged in the matter of creation? It is best to let Almighty Lord direct us. O sinless Vidura, all of a sudden, while Brahma was engaged in thinking, a small form of a boar came out of his nostril. The measurement of the creature was not more than an upper portion of a thumb. O descendant of Varaha, while Brahma was observing him, that boar became situated in the sky in a wonderful manifestation as gigantic as a great elephant. Struck with wonder at observing the wonderful boar-like form in the sky, Brahma, with great brahmanas like Marichi as well as Kumaras and Manu, began to argue in various ways. Is this some extraordinary entity come in the presence of a boar? In the pretense of a boar. Is it very wonderful that he has come from my nose? It is very wonderful that he has come from my nose. First of all, this boar was seen no bigger than the tip of a thumb, and within a moment he was as large as a stone. My mind is perturbed. Is he the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu? While Brahma was deliberating with his sons, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, roared tumultuously like a great mountain. The omnipotent Supreme Personality of Godhead enlivened Brahma and the other highly elevated Brahmanas by again roaring with his uncommon voice, which echoed in all directions. When the great sages and thinkers who are residents of Janaloka, Tapaloka, and Satyaloka heard the tumultuous voice of Lord Boar, which was the all-auspicious sound of the all-merciful Lord, they chanted auspicious chant from the three Vedas. Playing like an elephant, he entered into the water after roaring again in reply to the Vedic prayers by the great devotees. The Lord is the object of the Vedic prayers, and thus he understood that devotees' prayers were meant for him. Before entering the water to rescue the earth, Lord Boar flew in the sky, slashing his tail, his hard hairs quivering. His very glance was luminous, and he scattered the clouds in the sky with his hoofs and his glittering white tusks. He was the personality of the Supreme Lord Vishnu and was therefore transcendental, yet, because he had the body of a hog, he searched after the earth by smell. his tasks were fearful, and he glanced over the devotee brahmanas engaged in offering prayers. Thus he entered the water. Diving into the water like a giant mountain, Lord Borg divided the middle of the ocean, and two high waves appeared as the arms of the ocean, which cried loudly as if praying to the Lord, "O Lord of all sacrifices, please do not cut me into two. Kindly give me protection." Lord Borg penetrated the water with his hoofs, which were like sharp arrows, and found the limits of the ocean, although it was unlimited. He saw the earth, the resting place for all living beings, lying as it was in the beginning of creation, and he personally lifted it. Lord Borg very easily took the earth on his tasks and got out of the bottom. Thus he appeared very splendid. Then, his anger glowing like Sudarshana wheel, he immediately killed the demon Hiranyaksa, although he tried to fight the Lord. Thereupon Lord Borg killed the demon within the water, just as a lion kills an elephant. The cheeks and tongue of the Lord became smeared with blood of that demon, just as an elephant becomes reddish from digging in purple earth. Then the Lord, playing like an elephant, suspended the earth on the edge of his curved white tusk. He assumed a bluish complexion like that of a tamal tree, and thus the sages headed by Lord Brahma could understand him to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead and offered respectful obeisances unto the Lord. All the sages uttered with great respect, "O unconquerable enjoyer of all sacrifices, all glories and all victories unto you. You are moving in your form of the personified Vedas, and in the hair holes of your body the oceans are submerged. For certain reasons, to uplift the earth, you have now assumed the form of a boar. O Lord, your form is worshipable by performance of sacrifice, but souls who are simply miscreants are unable to see it. All the Vedic hymns, Gayatri and others, are in the touch of your skin. In your bodily hairs is the kusha grass, in your eyes is clarified butter, and your forelegs are the 4 kinds of fruitive activities. O Lord, your tongue is a plate of sacrifice, your nostril is another plate of sacrifice, and your belly is the eating plate of sacrifice, and another plate of sacrifice is the holes of your ears. In your mouth is Brahma plate of sacrifice, your throat is the plate of sacrifice known as Soma, and whatever you chew is known as Agnihotra. Moreover, O Lord, the repetition of your appearance is the desire for all kinds of initiation. Your neck is the place for 3 desires, and your tusks are the result of initiation at the end of all desires. Your tongue is the prior activities of initiation. Your head is fire without sacrifice, as well as fire of worship, and your living forces are the aggregate of all desires. O Lord, your semen is a sacrifice called Soma Yagya. Your growth is the ritualistic performances of the morning. Your skin and touch sensation are 7 elements of the Agnishtoma sacrifice. Your bodily joints are symbols of various other sacrifices performed in 12 days. Therefore, you are the object of all sacrifices called Soma and Asoma, and you are bound by Yagyas only. O Lord, you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead and are worshipable by universal prayers, Vedic hymns, and sacrificial ingredients. We offer our obeisances unto you. You can be realized by pure mind, freed from all visible and invisible material contamination. We offer our respectful obeisances to you as the Supreme Master, as the Supreme Spiritual Master of knowledge in devotional service, O Lifter of the earth with its mountains, which you have lifted with your task, is situated as beautiful as a lotus flower with leaves sustained by an infuriated elephant just coming out of water. O Lord, as the peaks of great mountains became beautiful when decorated with clouds, your transcendental body has become beautiful because of your lifting the earth on the edge of your task. O Lord, for the residential purposes of all inhabitants, both moving and non-moving, this earth is your wife, and you are the Supreme Father. We offer our respectful obeisances unto you, along with Mother Earth, in whom you have invested your own potency, just as an expert sacrificer puts fire in the Arani wood. Who else but you, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, could deliver the earth from within the water? It is not very wonderful for you, however, because you acted most wonderfully in the creation of the universe. By your energy, you have created this wonderful cosmic manifestation. O Supreme Lord, undoubtedly, we are inhabitants of the most pious planet, the Jnana, Tapas, and Satya Lokas, but still, we have been purified by the drops of water sprinkled from your shoulder hairs by shaking of your body. O Lord, there is no limit to your wonderful activities. Anyone who desires to know the limit of your activities is certainly nonsensical. Everyone in this world is conditioned by the powerful mystic potencies. Please bestow your causeless mercy upon these conditioned souls. The sage Maitreya said, the Lord, be thus worshipped by all great sages and transcendentalists, touched the earth with his hoofs and placed it on the water. In this manner, the personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, the maintainer of all living entities, raised the earth from within the water, and having placed it afloat on the water, he returned to his own abode. If one hears and describes in a devotional service attitude this auspicious narration of Lord Borg, which is worthy of description, the Lord, who is within the heart of everyone, is very pleased. Nothing remains unachieved when the Supreme Personality of Godhead is pleased with someone. By transcendental achievement, one understands everything else to be insignificant. One who engages in transcendental loving service is elevated to the highest perfectional stage by the Lord himself, who is seated in everyone's heart. Who, other than one who is not a human being, can exist in this world and not be interested in the ultimate goal of life? Who can refuse the nectar of narrations about the personality of Godhead activities, which by itself can deliver one from all material pangs? So this was chapter 13 of the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, which describes the appearance of Lord Varahadev. But there's more nectar in the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, and this would be the battle of Lord Varahadev with Hiranyaksa, and we will go just right to it. Okay, so we'll start with the end of 17th chapter, and then we'll roll to chapter 18 and 19, actually. So there's a lot of wonderful Katha Lord pastimes. As we hear, those who hear and recite these pastimes of the Lord in devotional mood please the Lord. So that's all we want, right? We want to please the Lord, and it's the ultimate perfection of our existence. And as the last verse of this chapter says, that if we don't do that, then we are, we're no better than animals, right? We're wasting our human life. What is it again? It is a wonderful, wonderful verse. Let's see. Who other than one who is not a human being can exist in this world and not be interested in the ultimate goal of life? Who can refuse the nectar of narrations about the personality of Godhead activities, which by itself can deliver one from all material pangs? So only somebody who is not human being would not be interested in narration, would not be interested in the narration about the Lord and the achieving the perfection of human life. Okay, so the end of chapter 17. It's quite fun stuff. Okay, we start with text 18. So we know that the deity, the wife of Kashyapa, came to Kashyapa in undue time for, begetting child. And though he didn't want to do it, he did it, but he said that, consequences would not be nice. Of course, it was basically, in the previous chapter describes as Jaya Vijaya were cursed, and so this is the result. They needed to appear in demoniac forms. So then Diti gave birth to twins, right? Prajapati Kashyapa, the creator of the living entities, gave his twin son their name. The one who was born first he named Hiranyaksha, and the one who was first conceived by Diti, then he named Hiranyakashipu. It's an interesting scene, right? We'll see. Srila Prabhupada purport to this. That's interesting. There is an authoritative Vedic literature called Pinda Siddhi, in which the scientific understanding of pregnancy is very nicely described. It is stated that when the male secretion enters the menstrual flux in the uterus in 2 successive drops, the mother develops 2 embryos in her womb, and she brings forth twins in a reverse order to that in which they were first conceived. The child conceived first is born later, and the one conceived later is brought forth first. The first child conceived in the womb leaves behind the second child. So when births take place, the second child appears first, and the first child appears second. In this case, it is understood that Hiranyaksha, the second child conceived, was delivered first, whereas Hiranyakashipu, the child who was behind him, having been conceived first, was born second. So this is a little technical analysis why Hiranyakashipu is considered the elder brother of Hiranyaksha, though Hiranyaksha appeared first. Now, with that out of the way, we'll continue. The elder child Hiranyakashipu was unafraid of death from anyone within 3 worlds because he received a benediction from Lord Brahma. He was proud and puffed up due to his benediction and was able to bring all 3 planetary systems under his control. His younger brother, Hiranyaksha, was always ready to satisfy his elder brother by his activities. Hiranyaksha took a club on his shoulder and traveled all over the universe with a fighting spirit just to satisfy Hiranyakashipu. Hiranyaksha's temper was difficult to control. He had anklets of gold tinkling about his feet. He was adorned with a gigantic garland, and he rested his huge mace on one of his shoulders. His mental and bodily strength, as well as the boon conferred upon him, made him proud. He feared death at the hands of no one, and there was no checking him. The gods, therefore, were seized with fear and at his very sight, and they hid themselves, even as snakes hide themselves for fear of Garuda. So he wants to fight. He, lurks around looking for somebody to challenge, and everybody is, like nobody's there. Everybody's hidden. So he's getting more mad. Yeah. On not finding Indra and other demigods who had previously been intoxicated with power, the chief of the deities, seeing that they had all vanished before his mind, roared loudly. After returning from the heavenly kingdom, the mighty demon, who was like an elephant in wrath for the sake of sport, dived into the deep ocean, which was roaring terribly. On his entering the ocean, the aquatic animals who formed the host of Varuna were stricken with fear and ran far away. Thus Hiranyakashipu showed his splendor without dealing a blow. Moving about in ocean for many, many years, the mighty Hiranyaksha smote the gigantic wind-tossed waves again and again with his iron mace, and reached Vibhavari, the capital of Varuna. So, this guy really wanted to fight, So he was in the ocean for many, many years. He was eager, I know. Definitely got a worthy opponent at the end. Vibhavari is the home of Varuna, lord of the aquatic creatures and guardian of the lower regions of the universe, where the demons generally reside. There, Hiranyaksa fell at Varuna's feet like a low-born man, and to make fun of him, he said with a smile, "Give me battle, O Supreme Lord." So he was mocking Varuna, but Varuna was smarter than this. "You are the guardian of the entire sphere and ruler of wide fame. Having crushed the might of arrogant and conceited warriors, and having conquered all the deities and danavas in the world, you once performed a Rajasuya sacrifice to the Lord. Thus mocked by an enemy whose vanity knew no bounds, the worshipful Lord of the waters waxed angry, but by dint of his reason he managed to curb the anger that had sprung up in him, and he replied, 'O dear one, we have now desisted from warfare, having grown too old for combat. You are so skilled in war that I do not see anyone else but the most ancient person, Lord Vishnu, who can give satisfaction in battle to you. Therefore, O chief of the Asuras, approach him, who even heroes like you mention with praise.' Varuna continued, 'On reaching him, you will be rid of your pride, and On reaching him, you will be rid of your prize at once and will lie down on the field of battle, surrounded by dogs for eternal sleep. In order to exterminate wicked fellows like you and to show his grace to the virtuous, he assumed his various incarnations like Varaha.'" So, Hiranyaksha was sarcastic, but I think Varuna Dev outwitted him. He was more sarcastic. And now, let's see what happened. Now we start chapter 17. The battle between Lord Borg and the demon Hiranyaksha. The Maitreya continued, "The proud and falsely glorious deity paid little heed to the words of Varuna, O dear Vidura. He learned from Narada the whereabouts of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and hurriedly betook himself to the depth of the ocean." So he paid little heed to the fact that he will be killed, but he took it seriously that Vishnu would be the worthy opponent. So he figured out from Narada where the Lord was, and he went to the depths of the ocean. He saw there the all-powerful personality of Godhead in his Borg incarnation, bearing the earth upward on the end of his tusk and robbing him of his splendor with his reddish eyes. The demon laughed, "Oh, an amphibious beast." So we read about, in the 13th chapter, right? We read about Lord Varaha Dev's appearance and why he was there to rescue the earth, right, by the request of Brahma. So once he was rescuing the earth, then Hiranyaksha appeared, and that was the moment when the battle was happening, right? The demon addressed the Lord, "O best of the demigods, dressed in the form of a boar, just hear me. This earth is entrusted to us, the inhabitants of the lower regions, and you cannot take it from my presence and not be heard by me. You rascal, you have been nourished by our enemies to kill us, and you have killed some demons by remaining invisible. O fool, your power is only mystic, so today I shall enliven my kinsmen by killing you." The demon continued, "When you fall dead with your skull smashed by the mace hurled by my arms, the demigods and sages who offer you oblations and sacrifice in devotional service will also automatically cease to exist, like trees without roots. Although the Lord was pained by the shaft-like abusive words of the demon, he bore the pain by seeing that the earth on the ends of his tusk was frightened. He rose up out of the water just as an elephant emerges with its female companion when assailed by an alligator. So this is interesting point that the Lord was pained by the abusive words of Hiranyaksa. Let's look what Srila Prabhupada says about it. Srila Prabhupada's purport. The Mayavadi philosopher cannot understand that the Lord has feelings. Right? The Lord has feelings. The Lord is satisfied if someone offers him a nice prayer, and similarly, God is dissatisfied if someone decries his existence or calls him by ill names. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is decried by Mayavadi philosophers who are almost demons. They say that God has no head, no form, no existence, and no legs, hands, or other bodily limbs. In other words, they say that he is dead or lame. All these misconceptions of the Supreme Lord are the source of dissatisfaction to him. He is never pleased with such atheistic descriptions. In this case, although the Lord felt sorrow from the piercing words of the demon, he delivered the earth for the satisfaction of the demigods, who are ever his devotees. The conclusion is that God is as sentient as we are. He is satisfied by our prayers and dissatisfied by our harsh words against him. In order to give protection to his devotee, he is always ready to tolerate insulting words from the atheists. To my understanding is, of course, I'm not claiming this is right, but that the Lord is pained by the foolishness of the atheists. He's pained for them. Somebody insults the Lord. It's not that he's personally insulted by this, or like we, that our false ego hurts, right? Lord doesn't have any false ego. But he feels sad and he feels hurt when some of his children, instead of accepting him and serving him and developing a loving relationship with him and reciprocating with his love, choose to abuse him or decry him, or like Mayavadis is completely, neglect him and say that he doesn't even exist, So this is how I understand Srila Prabhupada's explanation, and that he was hurt by abusive words. But of course, this might not be the full depth of it. But that's what I understand from what we read. Okay, next. The demon, who had golden hair on his head and fearful tusks, gave chase to the Lord while he was rising from the water, even as an alligator would chase an elephant. Roaring like a thunder, he said, "You are not ashamed of running away before a challenging adversary. There is nothing reproachable for shameless creatures." Sorry, are you not afraid? Are you not ashamed? So he said, are you not ashamed of running away before challenging adversary? There is nothing reproachable for shameless creatures. So he continues to insult the Lord. The Lord placed the earth within his sight. So he had the earth was trembling, it was fearful. So he thought, okay, let me put the earth aside, then we start fighting. The Lord placed the earth within his sight on the surface of the water and transferred to her his own energy in the form of ability to float on the water. While the enemy stood looking on, Brahma, the creator of the universe, extolled the Lord, and the other demigods rained flowers on him. The demon, who had the wealth of ornaments, bangles, and beautiful golden armor on his body, chased the Lord from behind with great mace. The Lord tolerated his piercing ill words, but in order to reply to him, he expressed his terrible anger. The personality of Godhead said, "Indeed, we are creatures of the jungle, and we are searching after hunting dogs like you. One who is freed from the entanglement of death, have no fear from the loose talk in which you are indulging, for you are bound up by the law of death. Certainly we have stolen the charge of the inhabitants of Rasatala and have lost all shame. Although beaten by your powerful mace, I shall stay here in the water for some time, because having created enmity with a powerful enemy, I now have no place to go. You are supposed to be the commander of many foot soldiers, and now you may take prompt steps to overthrow us. Give up your foolish talk and wipe out the cares of your kith and kin by slaying us. One may be proud, yet he does not deserve a seat in assembly if he fails to fulfill his promised word. Shimatea said, the demon, being thus challenged by the personality of God, became angry and agitated, and he trembled in anger like a challenged cobra. Hissing indignantly, all of his senses shaken by wrath, the demon quickly sprang upon the Lord and dealt him a blow with his powerful mace. The Lord, however, by moving slightly aside, dodged the violent mace blow aimed at his breast by enemy, just as the accomplished yogi would elude death. The personality of God had now exhibited his anger and rushed to meet the demon, who bit his lip in rage, took up his mace again, and began repeatedly brandish it about. Then with his mace the Lord struck the enemy on the right of his brow, but since the demon was expert in fighting, or gentle Vidura, he protected himself by the manure of his own mace. In this way the demon Hiranyaksa and the Lord, the personality of God, had struck each other with their huge maces, each enraged and seeking his own victory. There was keen rivalry between the two combatants. Both had sustained injuries on their bodies from the blows of each other's pointed maces, and each grew more and more enraged at smell of blood on his person. In their eagerness to win, they performed maneuvers of various kinds, and their contest looked like an encounter between two forceful bulls for the sake of a cow. O descendant of Kuru, Brahma, the most independent demigod of the universe, accompanied by his followers, came to see the terrible fight for the sake of the world between the demon and the personality of Godhead, who appeared in the form of a boar. After arriving at the place of combat, Brahma, the leader of thousands of sages and transcendentalists, saw the demon, who had attained such unprecedented power that no one could fight with him. Brahma then addressed Narayana, who was assuming the form of a boar for the first time. Lord Brahma said, "My dear Lord, this demon has proved to be a constant pinprick in the demigods and brahmanas, the cows and innocent persons who are spotless and always dependent upon worshipping your lotus feet. He has become a source of fear by unnecessarily harassing them. Since he has attained a boon from me, he has become a demon, always searching for a proper combatant, wandering all over the universe for his infamous purpose." Lord Brahma continued, "My dear Lord, there is no need to play with this serpentine demon, who is always very skilled in conjuring tricks and is arrogant, self-sufficient, and is most wicked." Self-sufficient, interesting. Brahma continued, "My dear Lord, you are infallible. Please kill this sinful demon before the demoniac hour arrives and he presents another formidable approach favorable to him. You can kill him by your internal potency without doubt. My Lord, the darkest evening which covers the world is fast approaching. Since you are the soul of all souls, kindly kill him and win victory for the demigod. The auspicious period known as Abhijit, which is most opportune for victory, commences at midday and has all but passed. Therefore, in the interest of your friends, please dispose of this formidable foe quickly." So we know that in Vedic astrology there are the different times of the day. You have Rahu Kala, you have Gulika Kala, different inauspicious times. Then you have Abhijit Muhurta every day. And this is very auspicious time to do something, especially if it is, okay, any time is auspicious for devotional service, but this is especially astrologically auspicious time. I mean, I'm no astrologer, just know a little bit. So, this demon, luckily for us, has come of his own accord to you. His death ordained by you, therefore exhibiting your ways, kill him in the duel and establish the worlds in peace. And this is the end of an 18th chapter, and chapter 19, the killing of the demon Hiranyaksa. Shimatreya said, after hearing the words of Brahma, the Creator, which were free from all sinful purposes, and as sweet as nectar, the Lord heartily laughed and accepted his prayers with a glance laden with love. The Lord, who had appeared from the nostril of Brahma, sprang and aimed his mace at the chin of the enemy, the Hiranyaksha demon, who was stalking fearlessly before him. Struck by demon's mace, however, the Lord's mace slipped from his hand and looked splendid as it fell down whirling. This was miraculous, for the mace was blazing wonderfully. Even though the demon had an excellent opportunity to strike his unarmed foe without obstruction, he respected the law of single combat, thereby kindling the fury of the Supreme Lord. So we see again and again that those demons are described in Srimad Bhagavatam or Mahabharata. They were very noble demons, though they were, I mean, in some sense, especially when it comes to combat, they usually would respect the rules of combat and would not strike unarmed foe. And we see that nowadays demons, they not nearly as powerful and obviously not nearly as virtuous. You see, the demons of Srimad Bhagavatam, they also undergone great austerities and restrictions and, a lot of discipline to attain their goals. So, kind of interesting in comparison to tiny and puny demons of our time, right? Anyway, so he kindled the fury of the Supreme Lord because he didn't want to attack him unarmed, right? As the Lord's mace fell to the ground, and cry of alarm arose from the witnessing crowd of gods and rishis, the personality of Godhead acknowledged the demon's love of righteousness and therefore invokes his Sudarshana discus. So this is the ultimate, like nowadays people like to see boxing matches or, mixed martial arts matches, and people, fights, and people kind of smashing and hitting and, destroying one another. It's a spectacle. So we see that the demigods, they, especially the Lord, was fighting with the greatest demons, and it was a great spectacle, right? So everybody was assembled there, and there was like when the club fell, they were like, oh my God, what's going to happen, But the Lord invoked his Sudarshana disc, and we know what that means, right? As the discus began to revolve in the Lord's hand, and the Lord contended at close quarters with the chief of his Vaikuntha attendants, who had been born as Hiranyaksha, a wild son of Diti, there issued from every direction strange expressions uttered by those who were witnessing from airplanes. They had no knowledge of Lord's reality, and they cried, May victory attend you. Pray, dispatch him. Play no more with him. When the demons saw the personality of Godhead, who had eyes just like lotus petals, standing in position before him, armed with his Sudarshana discus, his senses were overpowered by indignation. He began to hiss like a serpent, and he bit his lip in great resentment. The demon, who had fearful tasks, stared at the personality of Godhead as though to burn him. Springing into the air, he aimed his mace at the Lord, exclaiming at the same time, "You are slain!" O saintly Vidura, while his enemy looked on, the Lord, in his boar form, the enjoyer of all sacrificial offerings, playfully knocked down the mace with his left foot, even as it came upon him with the force of a tempest. The Lord then said, "Take your weapon and try again, eager as you are to conquer me." Challenged in this word, the demon aimed his mace at the Lord and once more loudly roared. When Lord saw the mace flying towards him, he stood firmly where he was and caught it with the same ease as Garuda, the king of birds, would seize a serpent. His valor thus frustrated, the great demon felt humiliated and was put out of countenance. He was reluctant to take back the mace when it was offered by the personality of Godhead. He now took a trident which was as rapacious as a flaming fire and hurled it against the Lord, the enjoyer of all sacrifice, and even as one would use penance for the malevolent purpose against a holy Brahmana. Hurled by the mighty demon with all his strength, the flying trident shone brightly in the sky. The personality of Godhead, however, tore it into pieces with his discus Sudarshana, which had a sharp-edged rim, even as Indra cut off a wing of Garuda. The demon was enraged when his trident was cut into pieces by the discus of the personality of Godhead. He therefore advanced towards the Lord, and roaring aloud, struck his hard fist against the Lord's broad chest, which bore the mark of Srivatsa. Then he went out of sight. Hidden this manner by the demon, O Vidura, the Lord, who had appeared as the first boar, did not feel the least quaking in any part of his body, any more as the elephant would when struck with the wreath of flowers. The demon, however, employed many conjuring tricks against the personality of Godhead, who is the Lord of Yoga Maya. At the sight of this, the people were filled with alarm and thought that the dissolution of the universe was near. Fierce winds began to blow from all directions, spreading darkness, occasioned by the dust and hailstorms. Stones came in volleys from every corner, as if thrown by machine guns. The luminaries in outer space disappeared due to the sky being overcast with mass of clouds, which were accompanied by lightning and thunder. The sky rained pus, hair, blood, stool, urine, and bones. Oh my God. Quite a rain. O sinless Vidura, mountains discharged weapons of various kinds, and naked demonesses, armed with tridents, appeared with their hair hanging loose. Cruel and savage slogans were uttered by hosts of ruffian yakshas and rakshasas, who all either march on foot or rode on horses, elephants, or chariots. The Lord, the personal enjoyer of all sacrifices, now discharged his beloved Sudarshana, which was capable of dispelling the magical forces displayed by the demon. At that very moment, a shudder suddenly ran through the heart of Diti, the mother of Hiranyaksa. She recalled the words of her husband Kashyapa, and blood flowed from her breasts. When the demon saw his magic forces dispelled, he at once again came into the presence of personality of Godhead, Keshava, and full of rage, tried to embrace him with his arm to crush him. But to his great amazement, he found the Lord standing outside the circle of his arms. The demon now began to strike the Lord with his hard fist, but Lord Arhokshodra slapped him with the root of the ear, even as Indra, the Lord of Maruts, hit the demon Vritra. Though struck indifferently by the Lord, the conqueror of all, the demon's body began to wheel. His eyeballs bulged out of their sockets, his arms and legs broken, and the hair of his head scattered. He fell down dead, like a gigantic tree uprooted by the wind. Aja, Brahma, and others arrived on the spot to see the fearful tusked demon lying on the ground, biting his lip. The glow of his face was yet unfaded, and Brahma admiringly said, "Oh, who could meet such blessed death?" So basically the Lord slapped him in the root of the ear. But with what? So he slapped him with something at the root of the ear. So he slapped him somewhere here, right? And he said that he was struck indifferently by the Lord. He's like, not very seriously, but he was dead, His eyes bulged out, and legs and hands were broken, and he fell dead. Brahma continued. He was struck by a 4 foot of the Lord, whom yogi. So he was struck at the root of the ear, but now Brahma said he was struck by the 4 foot of the Lord, whom yogis seeking freedom from their unreal material bodies meditate upon in seclusion in mystic trance. While gazing on his countenance, this grace jewel of deity's son has cast off his mortal coil. So he was gazing at the Lord, and it was, of course, he was one of the 2 brothers, Jaya and Vijaya. I'm not sure which one of them. I assume it was Vijaya, right? As he was a younger brother. So, but because he was cursed, right? He didn't, usually if demon would look at the Lord while he passes away, he would immediately get liberation, and especially being killed by the Lord. But because he had this special service to fulfill, he took another 2 births. So 2 births, and actually 3 births, as we know that the 2 brothers also appeared as Jagai and Madhai in the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. These 2 personal assistants of Supreme Lord, having been cursed, have been destined to take birth in demoniac families. After such birth, they will return to their own position. The demigods address the Lord. All obeisances unto you. You are the enjoyer of all sacrifices, and you have assumed the form of a boar in pure goodness for the purpose of maintaining the world. Fortunately for us, this demon, who was a torment to the worlds, has been slain by you. And we too, O Lord, are now at ease in devotion to your lotus feet. Sri Maitreya continued. After thus killing the most formidable demon Hiranyaksa, the Supreme Lord Hari, the origin of boar species, returned to his own abode, where there is always an uninterrupted festival. The Lord was praised by all demigods headed by Brahma. Maitreya continued. My dear Vidura, I have explained to you the personality of Godhead's coming down as the firstborn incarnation and killing in a great fight a demon of unprecedented prowess, as if were just a plane, as if it's too much reading, as if he were just a plaything. This has been narrated by me as I heard it from my predecessor spiritual master. Sri Sutta Goswami continued, my dear Brahmana, Kshata, Vidura, the great devotee of the Lord, achieved transcendental bliss by hearing the narration of the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead from the authoritative sources of the sage Kausharava Maitreya, and he was very pleased. What to speak of hearing the pastimes of the Lord, whose chest is marked with Srivatsa? People may take transcendental pleasure even in hearing of the works and deeds of the devotees, whose fame is immortal. The personality of Godhead delivered the king of the elephants who was attacked by an alligator and who meditated upon the lotus feet of the Lord. At that time, the female elephants who accompanied him were crying, and the Lord saved them from the impending danger. What grateful soul is there who would not render his loving service to such a great master as the Supreme Personality of Godhead? The Lord can be easily pleased by spotless devotees who resort exclusively to him for protection, though the unrighteous men find it difficult to propitiate him. Okay, I don't know this word. Let's see what it means, propitiate. Okay, look up. Means win or regain the favor of. Propitiate, okay. By doing something that pleases them. O Brahmanas, anyone who hears, chants, or takes pleasure in the wonderful narration of the killing of the Hiranyaksa demon by the Lord, who appears as the firstborn in order to deliver the world, is at once relieved of all results of sinful activities, even the killing of a Brahmana. This most sacred narrative confers extraordinary merit, wealth, fame, longevity, and all the object of one's desire. On the field of the battle, it promotes the strength of one's vital organs and organs of action. One who listens to it at the last moment of his life is transferred to the supreme abode of the Lord, O dear Shaunaka. So today we receive double blessings because we have blessings at the end of the 13th chapter, and we have practically same blessings at the end of the 19th chapter. So with these double blessings, I think we could be grateful for having spent our time. I'm very grateful that I have opportunity to spend this time on the auspicious day of Varaha Dvadasi to read these pastimes. Maybe you had a chance to listen to it, and in this way I also could render some service to the devotees. And we'll speak tomorrow about Lord Nityananda, or we read tomorrow about Lord Nityananda. Nothing much to speak, or maybe we'll just see if there's anything to comment on the pastimes, on the personality of Lord Nityananda as we read from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Okay, thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.